Welcome in, everyone. Today we're diving deep into an incredibly chilling piece of storytelling from Bihar. It's called The Voice of the Black Well. And as we go through this explainer of the folklore-inspired horror script, we're really going to see how it pits old, deeply rooted village superstitions right against our modern, screen-obsessed culture. So let's just step right into this atmospheric tale and see exactly how it builds its terror.
The script honestly wastes absolutely zero time setting this heavy, oppressive atmosphere. It opens by establishing a localized threat with one hard, unbreakable rule. Whoever followed that voice never returned. I mean, that's classic folklore, right? It tells us exactly what the stakes are before we even meet a single character. Basically, if you wander over to that well at midnight, you're gone, forever, no exceptions.
Moving into Section 1, The Well's Terrifying Secret. Let's take a look at the foundational lore of this village and figure out why literally everyone is terrified of this specific spot.
20 years. This number really is the emotional anchor of the entire script. We find out from a village elder that exactly 2 decades ago, a woman tragically took her own life and her child's life by jumping into this very well. And man, that completely shifts the tone, doesn't it? It's not just some random spooky place anymore. It is a site of profound generational trauma. The village elders respect this space because they vividly remember the human tragedy that happened there. The horror here is rooted in this deep, unresolved sadness, which, let's be honest, almost always makes for the absolute best kind of ghost story.
That brings us to Section 2, Arrogance and Old Warnings. Because in any good cautionary tale, a warning really only exists to be completely ignored.
So, let's talk about our protagonist, Ravi. To really understand him, we've got to look at what drives him. He's a horror vlogger on YouTube, and he represents a culture I think we're all pretty familiar with today, the relentless pursuit of the viral vlog. Going to any extent for views, completely ignoring basic safety, and tossing local traditions right out the window. Ravi isn't out there doing some respectful scientific investigation, He just wants a spectacle.
The real friction here is the massive clash between two completely different worldviews. On one side, you have the old man, who represents tradition, extreme caution, and a solemn respect for a 20-year-old tragedy. And then on the flip side, you have Ravi's mindset. To him, this whole generational trauma thing, it's just superstition, just some silly myth he can exploit for clicks and engagement. The contrast is just incredible. The script is basically asking us what actually happens when modern arrogance straight up mocks ancient tragedy.
Well, that arrogance peaks with this exact line of dialogue. After the old man gives his solemn warning, Ravi just laughs it right off and says, "If there really is a ghost, I'll make a video tonight." Boom. That is the absolute point of no return. In storytelling terms, pure hubris. Ravi is practically daring the supernatural to come out and prove him wrong. He's so blinded by the screen of his digital camera and this desperate hunger for internet fame that he completely blows off a genuine life-and-death warning.
Which leads us into Section 3, 12 midnight. The sun drops, the village goes completely dark, and we enter the most dangerous part of the night.
Right here, the script completely flips its format. We're not just watching Ravi from the outside anymore, we are suddenly shoved right into his point of view, looking directly through the lens of his recording camera. Try to picture it, a pitch-black village, the whistling sound of the wind, and Ravi whispering into the lens, "Guys, it's 12 midnight and I've reached the haunted well." It literally turns into a found-footage horror movie right before our eyes. The vibe is so tense, so isolated, and just incredibly claustrophobic.
And you really have to notice how fast the pacing accelerates from this point. It is an absolute masterclass in escalating tension. At 12 a.m. sharp, he arrives. Just 5 minutes later, at 12:05, that dead silence is shattered by a woman's voice crying out, "My child." Then, 3 minutes later, at 12:08, Ravi makes the ultimate fatal mistake. He looks inside. He hears dripping water, and he sees a woman with entirely white eyes holding a decaying child. And then, by 12:10, it's over. Just a sudden, violent scream. In exactly 10 minutes of script time, Ravi goes from this cocky, arrogant vlogger to a victim of the exact thing he was mocking. That ticking clock structure, it's just incredibly effective.
But right before that final terrible scream, the entity in the well actually asks him something. She looks up at him with those terrifying dead white eyes and asks, "Have you also come to see?" Man, that is such a brilliant psychological twist right before the physical scare. It strongly implies that the ghost knows exactly why he's there. She knows he didn't come to help or out of sympathy for a 20-year-old tragedy. No. She knows he showed up just to treat her pain like a cheap sideshow attraction.
And that brings us to Section 4, Terrifying Truth and Consequence. The climax cuts off abruptly, leaving us to look at the morning after.
So, the sun comes up and the script lays out the grim reality of the situation. Ravi is gone, missing without a single trace. Literally, the only thing left behind, sitting right near the edge of the well, is his recording camera, the very tool of his arrogance. Oh, and the worst part? The haunting cries of the woman. They haven't stopped. They still continue every single midnight, completely undisturbed by Ravi ever being there. The old man's warning from the very beginning turned out to be absolutely fatally accurate.
When the villagers finally play back that camera, this is all they find. Just one desperate, terrified scream, "Help me!" immediately cut off by a sharp screen glitch sound. And wow, this just brilliantly highlights the dark, tragic irony of the whole script. I mean, Ravi traveled to this village for one reason, right? He desperately wanted to capture viral horror footage. And hey, he succeeded. He got exactly what he wanted. But the horrifying catch is that the viral footage he managed to capture was just the sound of his own demise.
Which brings us to the story's deeply haunting conclusion. The narrator steps back in with one final, hushed revelation. Today, along with the woman's cries, sometimes Ravi's scream is also heard. Ravi didn't just lose his life at the well, he was absorbed by it. His modern-day arrogance was completely swallowed whole by this ancient folklore. He went there to document a ghost story, and instead he became a permanent fixture in the exact same myth he was trying to exploit.
Ultimately, this script uses the supernatural to hold up a massive mirror to our own modern habits, and it leaves us with this really dark, lingering question. Are internet views actually more precious than your life? Look, it's super easy to sit back and judge Ravi, but in a world that is completely obsessed with capturing every little thing on camera for an audience, his fatal mistake hits a little too close to home. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the things around you, keep learning, and maybe, just maybe, don't go chasing things into the dark just for a few extra views.